to start. Okay, so a short recap is, well, this was supposed to be all about wellness and life force and how to use our life force in the best way possible. And by doing that, to reflect on how it's being used efficiently. So that was what my focus was going to be for the 3 days. But even the topic of wellness, if you're talking to any of the other people who are not quite at the park yet, but because it's pretty empty, they look at wellness differently, and we understand energy. So wellness through those different lenses is even a bigger topic, right? So we talked yesterday about what could wellness look like in an ideal life situation, and how does life force come in, and then how do we use it. So today I had talked about that we're going to reflect on our own lives and maybe open up more choices or awareness in the everyday moment to the best that we're able. So I'm not doing that every second, of course, in my life. Sometimes I didn't do it all day, and then I know why I'm feeling that way, and I'm, trying to sit down and have a big reflection, right? But before we do that, I thought it would be good to understand a little bit about the energy field and how it interacts with our physical body, our emotions, and our thinking. So it's like your energy field is going to carry information and emotions about every experience that you ever had. And so the old stuff too is part of that. So it's like if we don't look at wellness and including the energy field in that, we need to understand that whatever's going on in the energy field, if it's not addressed energetically, is going to affect it physically, emotionally, and mentally, and then the reverse is true. And so going back to when I'm helping Keith with Energy Workers Academy classes, and the questions asked is like, and even in my own practice, it's like if I calm everything in the energy field, and I go through the old timeline and feel for trauma impact points energetically, and I, addressing the meridians, and everything's so calm, you could go back a couple days later and it's not calm again. So the other thing to know is if we have a physical problem, if it's acute, so easy to fix. So we should really, if we have the ability to check in and do our own energy work, or if we know of a practitioner who can do that for us, you can turn that around so fast. But if it's a chronic problem, or that we know there's so many different people that we know, family, friends, clients, ourselves, who have physical chronic problems, the physical affects the energy field, and the energy field affects the physical. It's never a one and done when it's a physical problem, because it's like you'll calm it, you'll fix it, and everything will be in balance, but the body is interacting with the energy field at all times. So you got to go back in and do it again. And if you really want to heal something, you might have to do it every day. So I have clients, and I'm like, well, that's not a once a week, and then some clients will come back to you and it's like been 3 weeks or a month. And it's not quite like you're starting from scratch, because you have dug into a big amount of stuck chronic. It's just harder to move energy when there's a chronic physical problem. So I think that's all that we really need to think about the energy field and how it interacts. But the other thing to know is within the energy field, and a lot of you I know some of the Chinese medicine and understand how the different meridians interact with each other. But like one energy at one point in the energy field, or the system is going to just ripple out to all, but then a positive thing does that too, right? So when we balance one part, we get a nice calming to the whole thing as well. I like Karen going, so it's like anytime there's a physical problem, it's never just that knee hurts, right? So the people that don't understand the energy is like, I injured myself, I had some physical therapy, I dealt with whatever medicine offered me, right? And I'm going to give you a couple examples actually. So I got stitches here, and quite frankly, it would be better if they said don't use that hand, because anytime I used it, I felt the stitches tighten in. When the stitches dissolved, there was a split and a crevice. So I'm like, well, and I know there's a meridian that travels through there. I don't remember which one it is. But I would look it up, but I mean, I also don't want it to reopen. So I have my Health device, which is a Nest pulse electronic magnetic frequency device. But you can go across the tissues and get the skin interacting with each side so that it knows it's there and it's connected, right? It's like forming the relationship across that. And that's one example. At one point I fell on my knee on a wooden floor. I don't know why you needed to know it was that knee, but it was. And it's a year later, and it didn't hurt, but I felt it if I kneeled, right? So if I were doing yoga. And I was thinking, the average person, that'd be good enough, but it's not healed, in my opinion. So if we can aim for 100% healing, it's not going to be a problem later in our life, right? But the other thing to know, it isn't just a knee. There's meridians that go through there. So the kidney meridian is there. I remember Keith going, you hurt kidney meridian. Probably that wasn't quite the words he used, but. So you understand energy, you understand those poor kidneys are there to support every organ in your body when it's energetically in trouble. So like you potentially could have a major decline in health from ignoring a knee because it's good enough. So I guess my feeling about the illness-wellness continuum that I showed you yesterday is we should aim for not good enough. We should aim for complete wellness. When we hurt ourselves, it's not just a body part. So that said, I thought it would be good to just think about your life right now and how you live your life, and is there areas where your energy might be depleted, or areas where you could do more to have more life force. So I actually think when I'm talking to a group, for me, I feel so fortunate every day that I can get the best quality food. First of all, the fact it's available to me and that I could afford it. And not everyone can, so I do think that some of our life choices are impacted by what's available to us and what our finances allow for us. And even that I have the time to cook that food, right? So some people have it, my kids aren't little anymore. It can be very difficult if you don't have the support. So I always keep that in mind. But within that framework, maybe there are options that you don't know of because you didn't think about it, that you can talk to others to find out what other options there are. Like going in on a cow together if you eat meat, things like that. You can find ways to make things less expensive when you talk to others. What else would I wanted to say about that? So just try to thinking about, reflecting about ways, and we probably all have ways. All right, I'll give you other examples. I have a good friend who thinks she's very healthy because she knows what she should be eating, and she tries to get regular exercise, but she's not eating because her life is such that she runs a business. She gets home really late, and so a lot of times we have a list of things that we want to get started on. And I think the other thing to know is, what if here's the illness-wellness continuum. What if you aim to be, this is wellness. And there's this thing that you're not getting to, I should be eating better. I have to figure out how I'm going to make my schedule work so I can make some changes. But what if at that point, when you don't have that in place, you get some bad news, some emotional hit that was totally unanticipated, because that's the way life does happen, right? Then you're going this way. So I guess I'm just thinking, as you reflect, maybe there's some things that you need to get to. I need to work on this more. I also think I have some fascia here that needs work, and that's left from like this weird rash that overtook my body, and I had neuropathy that kept me up for like 5 nights. And so I think it's left from that. And I don't want to ignore that too long, right? So there are certain things, because that's what it is to be alive. There are going to be little things that accumulate that maybe we're not getting to yet. And you just want to make sure that they don't become bigger problems. So I was hoping we would take some time so you can kind of think about your life force, how it comes in, where it's going. If you want to think about what percent is being used up by what, I think that might be a little difficult, but roughly. And then, what? Probably changes daily too, right?
Yeah, probably.
You know, but, and then if anyone wanted to share either stories, how they have learned some of these same things, maybe stories from, people they've worked with, if you're a practitioner or your own, I think everyone would benefit from that. So, 15 minutes, maybe, to kind of think. And I did try to send some questions or, let you know this was happening if you wanted to pre-think about it. So just if you aren't a person trained working with Keith or Angel, maybe you have other trainings, but if you're working with a practitioner, it may be this is things that you'll become more understanding about, and more conversations will happen with that practitioner. But there are other, if you don't have a practitioner to help you with the health of your energy field and working on your physical health in this way, we can definitely hook you up with people that have studied a lot of what you're learning this weekend, or it's not a weekend, the retreat. So I'm going to sit down and be quietly and actually do the exercise myself for 15 minutes. Does anyone need paper or a pen? What I'm going to do is just making a list of the things that I want to put into my life, even things that I've started working on more recently. I want to keep the momentum because they do affect how my life force is being used. Because things that feed me or nourish aspects of me, or help balance with the other stuff that takes a toll. It's just creating balance, right? So, because that's the way life is. Like, there's going to be some of the stressful things and some of them that are not. So, and then we were having this little chat at our table. I want more play in my life, and I need to actually take the time, more than the intention, do it, right? Open up the calendar, schedule time with friends. For me, I always talk about liking to go hiking and camping, but it is a little bit of a pain in the neck to find people that will camp with you and figure out where you want to go and then get it on the calendar, and then time gets away, and then it's another season, right? So you're not now in that mood. So I want to use up some of my energy to build something like that rejuvenates me. So it's kind of like the budgeting of life force. I have a few places that there's clutter in my house. So I think of it as the energy of my home environment. So that's a priority that I've started working on. I'm actually thinking of running a program in teaching people about letting go and clutter and how it relates to the colon and constipation in terms of Chinese medicine, and actually doing some energy healings with that as well as an online program. And I will get to declutter, and we can have a Facebook group. I think it'd be super fun, and it's kind of hitting it at different ways and helping them understand energy and how we behave, and it's, if your colon is, I'm getting off topic, but I'm going to just finish the thought. If your energy of your large intestine is working, or you're constipated chronically and then all of a sudden it's working, it's like this thing in your house, you're like, why do I have this? Trash. That's letting go emotionally, your thinking, and in your physical body, and the crap in your house. So I was thinking I could turn that into something really fun. I don't dance enough, listen to music and dancing. Maybe when I'm all by myself. Because we were talking about dancing yesterday. Continuing to learn how to say no and enjoying my work on boundary setting. And maybe every day doing something that feels uncomfortable. Okay, again, that would take some life force, but it's helping me to get my life to a different place so that I'm living the life I want. And when I work with clients, sometimes the energy is very thick and icky and not good for them, and then I absorb it. And if I don't do Pengu Qigong at the end of the day, I don't sleep as good. And I'll just end my share on the one version is working with a guy that had, I think his lower back was bothering him, or maybe not, and I just felt that there was kidney energy involved. But he was actually having chemo for cancer, and I didn't do Qigong at the end of the day. And the next day I had this major pain in my lower back, and I went, I didn't move, I didn't zig when I should have zagged. I know where that's from. And it took like at least 24 hours for me to address it. And if I had just done the Qigong at the end of the day, I would not have had that problem. So anyway, so those are my examples. And would others like to share? I'm hoping.
Sure.
Is it April?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to try to call on people by name. I do like to try to know people.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm spending most of my time on is studying, getting as much knowledge as I can, like in the quickest amount of time. I'm also meditating. I'm doing yoga.
Studying what?
What?
Studying what?
Studying everything
What?
and anything. I'm taking like 6 classes right now. You know, like I'm taking a lucid dreaming class. I'm taking an intuition class. I'm here. I'm gonna sign up for your I'm taking a nutrition class. So along with that nutrition class, though, I'm also spending a lot of time doing my food shopping and prep and cooking because it's very strict. And then aside from that, I moved across country and I only have family there. So I know that I'm not like really putting myself out there and having fun and, like I'd love to go dancing and I'd love to be more out in nature and I'd love to, interact with my community. And I know I'm kind of like isolating a little bit right now. But I also am going through a divorce, and I'm really trying to hone back like the amount of time I spend, letting the ego run rampant about like, oh, well, what's gonna happen, because it's already been 6 months. It's gonna take I don't know how much longer, but just trying to stay with what needs to happen. Like, do you have any problems right now? No. Okay, so just focus on today and right now and being here. So really, I'd like to bring in more like fun and excitement. I like to get organized because I like to shift everything across country, and I got rid of like almost everything but 6 boxes. But those 6 boxes I just kind of threw wherever because I rented a furnished place. So I like to get organized. I'd love to go dancing more, like find a really great spot, and I'd love to just have more friends, I guess, but I have a lot of like now the online friend community has built up for me, but it's different being in person. Like being here is so much different, so it's just finding people like y'all where I live.
Where do you live?
St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, I could hook you up with some people.
All right, there we go. All right. Okay.
So that's a lot. So
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I'd say, like, we have to pace ourselves.
Totally.
So you have to prioritize.
Yes.
But it's good to have, like, a long-term plan.
Yeah.
And then you look at that and you're like, what is I need it right now? And that's, like, a good way to not overwhelm and think about everything at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's good, right?
Yeah.
It's good to know what you want to have more of and to nourish you.
It's good to put it on
So
paper.
It is.
Yeah.
Take a look at it.
like everything you said.
And then revisit it. Maybe things will change, right? Maybe there's something else. And like hobbies. I have hobbies where I don't have to think because I'm so in it. If my hands are in the dirt and gardening, I'm part farmer, I think. It's amazing for me. So things you get lost in. You can shut off the mind. Anyone else?
Whatever she said, just repeat, because it's like very similar. Except for instead of divorce, it's child custody. And then I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking 3 different classes right now, and I have more set up. But that's good, because it'll keep me occupied and moving in a direction of more connected and just the alignment with my true self and my true purpose, which is what I'm really focusing on, is being aligned with my purpose. Because I wasn't aligned with my purpose for a very long time. And just being okay and confident, being in my power and of my true self. Because I think we try to please everybody else and we're not aligned, and then you got all this other crazy crap going on, and sometimes it's scared to be your true self. It's scared to put yourself out there as, I am an intuitive coach, energy healer. If you can't deal with it, come on!
Yes.
And I giggle a lot, and if you can't deal with that, then you don't need to be around me, so.
Who doesn't like giggling?
Yeah, really. But, so that's.
So one of the things that comes to mind is like we want it all now.
Yeah.
And and the internet is a big piece of this, I think. If we're constantly learning and trying to improve on ourselves or take in information, it can hurt your spleen meridian, and which is related to thoughts and recall and
Your intestines, because you're digesting all the information and you're taking it in multiple ways, so your digestive system's all messed up.
right, and the spleen and the stomach are interrelated energetically because they share in an element, and then you can actually literally not be digesting your food in that. So it's good. It's just good to like prioritize which thing is more important, maybe not everything at the same time. That's just another part of taking care of ourselves, making time to be.
Let's say I have been getting massages like weekly almost. So I do that for myself.
Awesome. Anyone else have something interesting that maybe they would like to share that?
Well, I didn't write anything down, I didn't think I wanted to share, but I've been wasting a lot of energy avoiding being a little low, not really avoiding what I don't know, like being radically honest and letting myself see what's there, and I'm not even taking the time to be still. I do, and when I'm avoiding, I'm usually reading, which is still doing something. So, be still. We talk about meditation. It's recommended to me because I'm always doing to be still for 10 minutes a day. I do qigong and a lot during the day, and I think I just need to make the time to be still, and then everything else will come together. Because it's like all going, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Indecisively.
Time is interesting. So it's like every day I'll have that to-do list, and we're so focused on getting the most done every day. Especially if we have different aspects of our lives where it's the work thing, it's the family thing, home, whatever the home needs, and then there's us. And the other thing about that is when we look at our to-do list, again, to prioritize, because some of it really doesn't have to get done that day. I have learned that. I think I'll talk a little bit more about the stress response and the inability to see clearly. We'll talk about that at the end today, I think. But yeah, it's like some stuff doesn't need to get done.
And there's so much to learn. I mean, I'm like, something shows up, I'm like, learn them. I have to remind myself occasionally, well, more than occasionally, probably not. I don't have to know everything.
It's addictive stuff once you want,
I buy the classes and I don't always do them. I have a lot of undone classes.
Okay, well, that's a good sign, right? So you got to pick which one you want to go back and finish, or yeah. Anyone else have anything?
Well, I would like to have more dance in my life, and I can't dance. So,
There is no right dance.
there is a little bit of right dance.
Well, I'm sure you can find some online dancing
There's a
videos.
Very seriously.
That's pretty
We
cool.
could have a Zoom meeting for people who can't dance, so they can just dance in front of each other, and it does not matter.
Yeah, maybe we should do a dance retreat.
Yes.
That'd be so fun.
But like, well, all right. Well, what does dance look like? You could have like a bunch of noisemakers and just shake them and move to music. That's dance. Like, that's what it started as, really.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do we have an idea of what it has to look like? It's really should be what it does for you. So, like, don't look in the mirror. Just see how you feel and do it at home.
I dance with my dogs. Turn the music on. They're little Shih Tzus. I dance around the living room. And it's so much fun, and it brings such joy to me when I do that.
Well, I heard that thought because I'm working on my certification for dance and embodiment.
Nice.
Yes, so I'm actually working on that currently.
That's really
That is very
That
cool.
would be cool.
I'm going to actually tell this other really cool thing. Yesterday I talked about when I thought I was going to treat myself to a nervous breakdown. And I think it was valid to say it that way because I probably was in the middle of one that was just lasting for a really long time. And I went to this hotel, and the other part of it, and I talked about that yesterday, the other part of it is I swam, I went in the jacuzzi, but I also booked a babysitter and planned to go out to dinner with my husband, but then just spend the night by myself. But I watched a Cher concert on TV, and the next day when I'm home, I was dancing in the living room, and my kids had not seen that because I was a maximum level of stress 24/7 for many years. And I was just like, I go, what's your problem? I'm having a good time. Like, they make fun of my dancing. I don't care. So it was kind of interesting because it connects to the story yesterday. But yeah, if you haven't danced in a long time or you think that you need to be good at it. As a matter of fact, I remember studying some kind of thing about brain waves. It's good for your brain to shake and vibrate, right? So your dance could just look like you're just regular. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It totally doesn't because it's good for you. So we have to stop looking at it as a performance,
Yeah.
right?
It's just movement.
Sure.
And expressing what your body feels.
Yeah.
Animals in the wild.
Absolutely.
We don't let us.
Yeah.
It's like you're taking care of your nervous system when you're dancing.
Kids are so good at it. They don't care what anyone thinks.
Yeah, that's lovely. Be more like a
So what else do we want more of that we think we need to be good at? That would actually help us to feed anything that feeds you is preserving life force. I mean, I could turn this back to life force because it really is the theme. Anything that feeds you and makes you feel good is going to have a positive ripple effect on your energy field and help you conserve your life force. So if you're doing a lot of Qigong to get life force because you're stressed or you're dealing with this, there's that other aspect of it to reflect and see what's missing that could help alleviate the stress.
I think for me too, it's just all about gratitude and being present. Because sometimes with trauma, we go back to that, but then I have to bring myself back to this present moment. Because if I go back to the past, I can't change it, it's already happened. And then of course, Angel will talk with the transformation and transforming your emotional output. But that's like my biggest thing. And then allowing myself freedom. A lot of times I talk out loud, but at the end I just give myself freedom of that. To just breathe and let it So I do a lot of breath work as well and releasing as much as I need to, and just being present. And grateful for it, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I had not been through life.
Something else that we could do. I mean, I'm really sad that Linda didn't get to come, but just if you got a coloring book and colored, it's like a non-thinking kind of thing, but it kind of like stimulates your creativity, the different parts of your brain, and allows, I kind of feel it as letting all the stress come out of me through the crayon or the pen or whatever I'm coloring, and just let it go onto the page and be done with it.
It's true, and like paint. So here's the funny thing: people think I can't draw and I can't paint. If Soren, I want to call him Soren. This is like this client that I have, and it's like whatever Origin. If Origin were here, he could actually help talk about what it means to do art from his point of view. Children are in the moment, and it's a process, and they're not worried about how the thing is looking. Right? It's not. You're not sitting down to do art to produce something that everyone's going to love and you need to put in a frame and everyone's going to look at. You could be doing art because it just feels good playing with color and the feel of the brush moving across the paper with no plan. And actually, I was taking a process painting class. A woman in my church was offering this. And in this church religion that I go to, it's really about like being in touch with yourself, like just really about connecting. It's a lot of the stuff that is part of wellness for me as part of this religion. But she would have we actually did hero's journey. So you were like thinking about your life and what you're needing to overcome, and but it's process painting, and the rule was 3 hours, no talking, and you're not deciding what you're painting before you start. You're just playing with the color and the paint. And what's weird is the last half hour is where you start to understand what's on the paper. So you might not love the finished product. Then we would all talk about it and what it meant and what we saw popping out at us. And even if it's just swirls of color, you're like going into yourself, right? So when we have things in our life that help us to just be with ourselves in a deeper way, you're just stopping all of the busyness, but you're also doing your own therapy through painting. So painting doesn't need to be about, or drawing doesn't need to be about how good it is. So, and most of the things that are options for us and how we spend our time don't need to be good. Like I have my morning Qigong group, right? Anyone who doesn't know this, I know you're probably all time zones here, all over the place, but I did post on the Pangu Shenggong Facebook page all of these different groups. So I'm hoping people around the world can all come together. So Linda Sellers does a 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time till 8 on Zoom, and I do from 8 to 9. So yesterday I asked another person to volunteer to do the 8 to 9, and she was nervous. She wasn't sure if she knew how to set it up, and I gave her some information and said I'd help her. And then I understand today's meeting from 7, no, actually that was Linda's time. She was filling in for Linda from 7 to 8. She didn't know how to meet people, so it was a little messy. But I think it's better to have things not perfect, because you have a new person who's now taking a leadership role and learning the technology and feeling more connected to what she's been participating in all along. Now she's an important part of that, and it feels good to help and make group things happen, right? So we should all let go of perfect in every aspect, right? Except safety, maybe. Okay, well, I'll call on you.
Oh.
Did you want to speak? It looked like you did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. But I swear to call on you.
I didn't know if you were still at the point of
no.
we are on a continuum.
No.
Oh. That was one of my former students. She's the athletic director. Appalachian State.
Here in the park?
No, at the
At the
university.
college where we went through, we drove by.
That's awesome.
There's a college in
Cool.
So she came to see me. But what I wanted to say, and I was thinking about sitting here, it's like for 2 years ago, I was putting a lot of stuff in my life, doing a lot of different things. But at some point I sat down and I realized I was doing it to fill a void that was inside. But I wasn't really happy with the stuff that I was doing. It was just busy time, just stuff to keep me occupied. So I wouldn't have to think about the hurt. I wouldn't have to think about the pain. I wouldn't have to think about being lonely. So I just did a lot of stuff. So then I saw somebody that was doing unconscious unforgiveness, and I did that spa, and then I did boundary setting and how to love yourself. And so all of those things made me have to look within myself. I couldn't no longer point the finger outside at other people as to why I felt the way I did. I had to come internally and say, okay, Pam, take heed to yourself. What's really going on with you? Where are the inadequacies? Where are the insecurities? Where's the hurt? Have you held on to the hurt and you really pretended like you had forgiven people, but unconsciously you really hadn't forgiven people? So you need to work on that. But I'm saying all that to say that's part of the wellness continuum.
100%.
Is to be honest and truthful with ourselves. And we don't really deal with ourselves the way we should and come in and get healed inside. And then the outside will take care of itself when you really can deal with what's going on in the inside. And it's helped me with myself, it helped me with my marriage, it helped me with my children, and it's even helping me with the grandkids because now I can sit down and tell them where I've fallen, my process in life, the failures and the successes, but what I've learned even in the failures, and it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to take a wrong path, because when you're really trying to get to the right path, that wrong path will teach you something to get you back to the right path. That's my answer.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So true.
So, and each of those things you learned, you had probably improved, or improved the use of your life force. Because these things that we don't address because we're afraid to, we buried them, is a drain on life force.
Well, it was like I was doing Pengu Qigong, but I really think I didn't receive all of the life force I could doing it because it had too much junk to get through to get it. I don't know if that's true, if that can happen, but it had to work through a lot of mess.
So, and there
to
are people that are really purists and they just want to do Pengu Qigong to heal themselves, right? And they'll just do more and more and more of it. And this is like, I'm just, as I encounter people and there are different ways of understanding life force, and with what I've learned from you and Geschichte and Keith, it's kind of like a dammed up river and you take a hose at it.
Mm-hmm.
Why not go in there with your boots and pull it all out, even if it doesn't feel good? Because you're going to do it. And the other thing is, when we heal in that way, we're not going to get stuck in a bad, negative, emotional place, because there's movement when we move energy. You're going to go through it for like a second, and you're going to feel things start to like flow, let go, right? So like sometimes I'm like, why am I crying right now? I remember there was, I was telling Geschichte about this, like 3 advanced forms, cried through the whole thing, so it's about 20 minutes maybe, and I didn't know why I was crying, but it's okay, because it's moving, it's going. It's like, I don't have to know why. But you know, that happens when you're starting to dig through things and you're starting to come up. It's not stuck anymore, and then you do the Qigong and it's going to flow. Or if you're working with Angel-Geschichte, you're not ever going to be afraid that you're going to be stuck for like even 24 hours. Even if it's a bad 24 hours, it's a movement it's a process, and you can feel that, you know. Yeah, that's part of what I think, understanding life force in a bigger way. And so when there's people that are just focusing on doing lots and lots of Pangu Shingon, I'm like, but you're wasting some of it if you don't go in and, you know, even trauma, like through my studying with Keith, I can feel, and sometimes it's bizarre when I meet with someone that I haven't read their intake, I don't have the details, and I'm like, what happened at age 5? What happened at 12? Whoa, what was going on here? And then they tell you, because these are big things. And I'm like, I can work on that. I can feel the energy of that. Let me connect with that. And then actually in the work Keith teaches, you'll say that it is related to Pangu Shingon, because you're saying the password phrase and you're connecting with the energy, and then I absorb it. And then I go back and check it's not there. And I'll just tell you one good example of that. And then we'll do a little bit on closing, unless someone else wanted to share something. But let me just say, I had a woman that came to see me, a client. Her fiance had died 2 years earlier. And on her intake form, I had actually never seen anyone had such low rating for joy and well-being and high rating for overwhelm and stress. And lack of energy was very low. I mean, the amount of energy was very low. It was at the worst. It was like extreme. So her fiance had died 2 years earlier. He stepped out the door in a snowstorm, and there was a live wire on the ground. And he was electrocuted instantly. And I think like she was in emotional shock for 2 years. And I saw her twice. Once I cleared that. The energy of that was amazingly, sometimes it's, you know, little tiny ripples, and sometimes it's super intense. And then the next time she's like, I don't know how to be. So we talked about adrenal fatigue. She was trying to make up for lost time, and she was just not knowing how to live her life. So we just had like a conversation about that. And I actually haven't heard from her since then. But I don't know how I got on that, but I guess, okay, so to close, I just want to say from my own experience, when you're in a sympathetic stress response, and like here I could talk about, we should pause, we should reflect, we should be intentional. If you're in a sympathetic state because of the, you know, the responsibilities that you have, or, you know, the things that you're dealing with, you can't reflect. You can't even think. And so when I talk to my clients, the way I explain the stress response is anything that you don't need to escape the saber-toothed tiger is shut down in your body. Thinking isn't important. Your immune system isn't important. There's no sexual, hormonal, all of that is like, you know, totally not. It's all about run. So like you have no clarity, you have no ability to reflect. But it's important to know when you're in that state. And that's where I do think that the Pangu Shingon makes a huge difference in creating that calm state. But what happened to me is I realized that I was mostly in this high stress state. And I kind of learned the to-do list mostly has stuff on it that really you don't need to do. Sometimes it's as stupid as, I wanted to make this recipe because I feel like eating this, or someone in my family likes it, and I want them happy. But my grocery store is like 20 minutes away. And if I have a lot on my to-do list, I have to, you know, it's like, well, I'm supposed to go to this picnic, and I was supposed to bring this thing, but it might rain tomorrow, and I can buy that then. So when we can take care of the stress, we can think more clearly. But I think that I hope that people can be more prioritize themselves and think about that illness wellness continuum with all of these things that we're talking about, ways that they can do more for themselves. That's it.